Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening. So today is 21st of Friday, 21st August 2020. This is Achan Sujan from Warapanya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. Hi everyone, good evening Margaret, Colin, Manish, and everyone. So good evening. I hope, Colin, you are okay in the city. So hello Yvonne, thanks for joining again. Just the information that I have posted on a Facebook as well, that the 12th of September there will be a special talk by Professor Dr. Hansa Dhamahangso, one of the key architect of peace studies and mindful trainings in Thailand, the Mahachulalongkorn University, the university where I was studying before I came to UK. And now he's responsible for PhD students. He's responsible for PhD studies on peace studies and mindfulness training courses. And I was so grateful to have him after a couple of conversations, and he accepted the invitation to speak for an hour on meditation and what is it for and what are the benefits from the practice of a meditation. So it's on Zoom, so you're welcome to join. The ID and passwords are available on Facebook, and if you have any problem with it, just let me know. Meanwhile, the last Monday of the month we are going to have a usual meditation in the afternoon, half past 12. So this is also available on Facebook as well, and even on our website as well. Maybe dates are still previous dates, but the IDs are still the same. The passwords are still the same. So you're welcome to join. Right? So this is again now it's a Friday, and I hope that this weekend the city Aberdeen will lifting the lockdown. Hopefully it won't increase another third spike of this coronavirus, whereas other parts of the world like in Nepal or in India, the number of coronavirus positive is increasing and number of people are dying, whereas in Thailand little different situation, more of like a political situation going on, and the students are on the streets. So this is just here and there and talking through, and I've been planning for other monks and other plans to invite other different monks to give us a talk on and lead guided meditations in different days. So trying to get as many as possible, so simply to get the different views and different perspectives from different monks from around the world. Okay? So stay tuning in and get more benefit out of it during this time of the lockdown, or basically you cannot go anywhere. Okay, use this time skillfully. Okay. So thank you Emma, and thank you Karina, and thank you Yvonne. Right, so I'm again we are on this series of Dhamma talks on the different aspects of the Buddha's teachings and how to apply and how we can use the teachings of the Buddha in our day-to-day life. So, and on that, I've been focusing on the first discourse of the Buddha, which is the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the discourse given to the 5 ascetics, and which is, I always love this sutta, and also the sutta is the foundation for the whole of Buddha's teachings, and every aspects of the Buddha's teachings you can find within this sutta in a very concise and very short summaries of all other teachings, and the rest of other teachings of the Buddha are basically an expansion from this discourse. And we have been discussing on different aspects of the Buddha's teachings on the basis of this. So far, the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Noble Path. And within this Eightfold Noble Path, I've been talking so far 3rd factors of the Eightfold Noble Path, and that is the right speech, or Samma Vaca. And it's been almost a week that I have been talking about this right speech. And yesterday I touched vaguely on the last component of the right speech, which is the idle chatting or the frivolous speech. And I was talking that nowadays people like to listen nonsense stories, or just jokings. Jokes are more on the market than the reality, and people like to learn or listen the jokes rather than the facts. Similarly, another day, last night, one of my friends from Manchester sent me a small paper cut picture saying that it's the language saying that eating fatty food won't get fat as long as you are in other parts of the world except in the UK. And that's sort of like, there are a series of this, and then I thought, the problem is speaking in English. It was quite funny, like that. So this ideal chat, or the frivolous or nonsense useless speaking, is basically Buddha discouraged people to speak, and particularly the monks. There was a story, and quite a number of stories actually, that venerable monks, obviously monks are still engaged with the politics and social and sociologies and social people's well-beings, and about kings and all the politicians and like that. And obviously after lunch time they will have a free time, so at that time they will come together and gather and talk about these stories about the kings, about politics, about the business, about people, and then household fighting, and husband and wife fighting, and husband and wife quarreling when the wife is quarreling with the children, and all like that. And from the suttas, discourses, it suggests that monks were talking quite a long time, because the suttas suggest that after the lunch time, after finish the lunch, normally Buddha will seclude himself alone in his own kuti, and then after an hour or 2 hours later he comes out to the sala, or the hall, having seen all the monks are talking in different topics, and he normally would approach to them and ask, what are the subjects they are talking about. And then after the inquiries, normally if monks are talking about these different stories about not related to the to the contentment or to the encouragement, then he normally tell the monks off. that he shouldn't be talking about those topics. In particular, the sutta, I want to read it out for you, and this sutta is it's from Anguttara Nikaya, and the sutta says, and this sutta was while the Buddha was staying at the Savatthi Jetasa Grove, Anathapindika's park, and after now at that time a large number of monks, after the meal, on returning from their alms round, had gathered at the meeting hall and were engaged in many kinds of bestial topics of conversation. So, conversation about the kings, conversation about the robbers, ministers of a state, armies, alarms and battles, food and drinks, clothing and furniture, garlands and scents, relatives, vehicles, villages, towns, cities and countryside, women and heroes, the gossip about the street, the well, tales of the dead, tales of diversity, the creation of the world and of the sea, talk about whether these things are exist or not, like that. So many topics monks were talking about. So basically they were having fun. And then the Blessed One, emerging from the seclusion in the late afternoon, went to the meeting hall and on arrival sat down on a seat made ready. As he was sitting there, he addressed the monks. For what topic of conversation are you gathered together here? In the midst of what topic of conversation have you been interrupted? Yeah? And then just all the monks simply repeated what the topics they have been talking and discussing about. And then in that, Buddha said that it isn't right, monks, that sons of a good families, on having gone forth out of faith from home to the homeless life, should get engaged in such topic of conversation about kings, robbers, politics, and ministers of a state, and so on. Talk on whether these are exist or not. So these are regarded as a kind of idle chat, or this is for the monks. As a householder, obviously it's a different story. So one who is looking for the spiritual journey shouldn't be talking about it. And then say there are these 10 topics that is proper for the conversation. So in that case, and then the Buddha talked about the 10 topics that one should be talking about. As modesty, contentment, seclusion, non-entanglement, persistent virtue, concentration, discernment, release, and knowledge and vision. Vision of a release. So these are the some of the 10 topics that one should be talking about, rather than the politics or the kings or the ministers of the states or anything that related to the households. And obviously this is in reason behind that one cannot come to conclusion on these topics at all. And that's why there is a saying that if you are meeting with the people, do not talk about the religion and do not talk about the politics. One should be talking about the loving kindness and compassion. So these are always nice to hear and good to hear and good to conversation, which will not bring conflict, and also which will not bring disputes. Whereas whenever we talk about the politics, there always be conflict. Whenever we talk about the religion, again, there always will be conflict too. Particularly the politics, I have seen that in the same house, the father and son are two different topics, different party, belong to two different parties, and been fighting and quarreling. Simply disagree with one idea to the another, and the same with brothers are fighting each other simply because of the different political views and like that. And similarly, the religion has been also a topic of shouldn't be on discussion when you are meeting together, unless it's the meeting is simply dedicated to that matter. So this is what the Buddha meant. Okay? And in regards to the talking or having a meeting together, normally Buddha encouraged that the purpose of conversation, that this is the purpose of consultation, this is the purpose of apprenticeship, this is the purpose for lending ear, the liberation of the mind through the clinging. So any topic that is avoiding or abandoning the ideal chatting ideal chatting and abstaining from ideal chatter. One speaks in a season, speaks out of a faculty, what is in accordance with the goal of the Dhamma and a Vinaya, speaks with a treasuring, seasoning, reasoning, circumscribed, connected with the spiritual goal or happiness. So this is what Buddha was encouraging people to talk about and engage in. And with that engagement, normally that brings peace and harmony. Okay, and that brings basically brings modesty and become a modest and contentment and encouraging one another to find good pathways to go to develop the right way. And the topic normally we should be talking is how can we live our life better rather than an idle chatting. Ideal chatting always brings unhappiness and causes the trouble. This is again the content, this modesty. In terms of the modesty, there is a sutta, again this is from Theragatha. So when I was 7, a newly gone forth, having conquered with my power the great powerful serpent, I was fetching water for my preceptor from the great lake. Anuttata, when the teacher saw me and said, "Look, Sariputta, at that one, the young boy coming here, carrying a pot of water well centered within. His practice inspiring, his bearing admirable, his Anuruddha's novice mature in his power, made thoroughbred by a thoroughbred, good by one who is good, tamed by Anuruddha, trained by one whose task is done. He, having reached the highest peace and realized the unshakable, Sumana the novice wants this, don't let anyone know me." See? So the modesty here basically, after you have learned and you have understood, basically you do not want to project or anyone know that how much he knows and how much he has learned, like that. And in relation to training, training a particular person or training a monks, we can see that different ways of a training. There was once the story comes in I think it's in an Anguttara Nikaya as well, that the Buddha came across with a horse trainer. His name is Casey. Having met the horse trainer, the Buddha asked the horse trainer that, how do you train the horse? And this Casey, the horse trainer, said that I will use a mild way, harsh way, both. And then Buddha said, what if after you have tried all 3 ways and still you cannot train the horse? Then this horse trainer Casey replied that I will kill the horse. And having this conversation goes on, and Casey asks the Buddha back, saying that you, Venerable Sir, being a leader of so many monks, and how do you train them? And then the Buddha also said that I also trained similar to you, and I will use a mild way, a harsh way, and sometimes both ways. And in a last, if cannot train them, and then I also kill them. So here, killing doesn't mean the killing physically, but basically here, killing means not speaking and not teaching. So that's how Buddha used. And here, mild way, Buddha was talking about that the simply introducing that this is a verbal unwholesome things that you shouldn't be doing. This is a verbal action that you shouldn't be doing, and this is physical activities that these are you shouldn't be committing. And then mentally you also try not to have any cruelty, thought of cruelties in your minds and heart, or resentment at all towards any beings or anyone. So this is a mild way. And in a harsh way, it's like an order, it's like a commandment. He is saying these are not good, you should avoid. And this is particularly to the venerable monks and monastics. And then physically and verbally and mentally, these are the things you shouldn't be doing, like an order. It's like a rule that they should practice in accordance with this. And the other time simply using both ways. And the last one that the Buddha was talking is like, despite of trying these three ways, and if we can't train them, basically leave them alone. It's called Arya discipline, which means not speaking and not teaching at all. Simply let him go along as they are. So that's how you will train someone who is very stubborn and not able to study or not able to learn or change his behaviors. And that's why Buddha said that the speech is the speech changes their behavior, character. Speech demonstrate their character, and character demonstrate their behavior. So, and then the way they speak, that also demonstrate the way their behaviors are, and also embedded in their moral practice, which needs to be trained and tamed. And the very moment when their minds and heart is not tamed or trained, and then their mind will be always overcome by the cruelty, the thought of cruelty, a thought of greed, a thought of resentment. And with that, rather than bringing happiness, rather than bringing peace, and rather than encouraging one another to grow in a path to the happiness and liberation, it brings more conflict and trouble in their lives. There is also the one, if I'm not wrong, Buddha said that when our hearts and minds are dirty, the way we think, the way we behave, and the ways we speak also becomes unwholesome, and the consequences of that no one will be receiving apart from the one who commits it. Okay? So this is what the Buddha meant by, and these all again, the more we engage in this an idle chatting or the flattering or frivolous talks, it will simply then take away the time, that precious time that we have for the cultivation of minds and our heart away, and we lose the time, and with that we simply unable to use this time for the skillfully and for the benefit and happiness of ourselves and to the others. So Buddha's intention here simply is to let us all be more conscious about what we speak, whether it is the lie, or whether it is the hard speech, or whether it is the slander or gossips, or whether it is just nonsense. So then in this case we all need to be mindful of that. And having said that, obviously we like someone who speaks funny, someone who likes speaking entertaining us, like that, but obviously these are just for fun, but not for the good, and it's just a waste of time, like that. So this is what Buddha meant of this right speech, and there are other aspects of the right speech here, when to speak, how to speak, whom to speak, where to speak. There are certain categories as well that we should be mindful of. Let's say you know the truth. It doesn't mean that you can tell anywhere, any moment, at any time. So a noble one, or one who knows the consequences of it, despite of knowing the truth, he always will check that whether the time is suitable or not, whether that speaking the truth at that moment may insult the person or not, or may displease that person or not. And again, the situation, the way where you are going to speak the truth, it may cause trouble or conflict or not, whether it is conducive or a proper time to speak or not, and whether the time is right or not, the place is right or not, like that. So that's why sometimes people think that I know the truth, so I don't have to care anyone, I will speak. So mind you that having known the truth doesn't mean that you have to say it, and in a form of projecting your purity or your truthfulness. Where all what you need to be mindful that whether the truth that you're going to say is in the right place or not, and the person is ready to listen it or not. Even the Buddha's case, he won't speak anywhere. So always he is very conscious about when to speak, how to speak, and whom to speak. Similarly, this is what we can learn from here, that practicing of the right speech doesn't matter whether you know the truth or not. And if you know the truth, just be mindful when to speak, how to speak, and when you're going to speak with kindness and compassion towards person who we are speaking, and then not just at the front, but also be kind and compassionate on their backs as well. But in the meanwhile, the one thing that the Buddha also didn't encourage us, but again the commentaries says that if you want to talk about the good things of any person, then you can decorate as many as you would like, only good things, so you can paint it to be nicer. Okay, so I end here for tonight on this different ways of dealing with this chatting or being mindful of how we speak. So with this, may you all be well and happy, and thank you everyone for listening. And in a few moments time we will have a chanting and a guided meditation. You're most welcome to join with us for that. Until then, thank you and see you. Take care.